It was a quiet Thursday afternoon at Belle Noire, a Southern-style restaurant nestled in the heart of Willow Creek, a town that clung to the past like rust on iron. The restaurant had its charm: vintage booths, handwritten chalk menus, and soft jazz humming from antique speakers. But beneath the surface, the place held an unspoken rulebook. The unspoken didn't stay unspoken for long. At 3:45 p.m., a well-dressed black family walked through the doors. The hostess smiled stiffly. Their presence turned heads. Conversations dimmed. The family looked around, unaware of the storm they just walked into. Danielle Harper had worked at Belle Noire for 7 years. She wasn't just a waitress. She considered herself a gatekeeper of tradition. She believed in knowing your clientele, and she wore her judgment like perfume. When she saw the family standing at the podium, her smile didn't reach her eyes. She leaned into the hostess and whispered just loud enough, "You sure they're not lost?" Robert and Denise Whitaker weren't strangers to side eyes. They'd learned long ago how to rise above discomfort. Robert, a polished financial advisor, and Denise, a school principal, had come to celebrate their daughter Maya's college acceptance to Georgetown. They dressed well. They spoke softly. They smiled. They were everything America claimed it wanted. But that day, their presence was an offense. "Excuse me, do you have a reservation?" Danielle asked, even though there were plenty of empty tables. "We were told you accept walk-ins," Robert replied gently. Danielle feigned checking the book. "Well, we're booked. You might want to try somewhere else." The family stood silently. Denise scanned the room. There were 6 open tables. Her jaw tightened. "We'll wait," she said. As the Whitakers sat in the waiting area, the restaurant buzzed with quiet racism. Patrons whispered. A man coughed into his napkin, muttering, "Used to be a decent place." Danielle returned to her regulars with a smirk. "They're waiting. Can you believe it?" Her coworker asked, "Should we tell management?" Danielle waved it off. "They'll leave. They always do." They didn't. The manager, Caleb Jensen, had seen the Whitakers. He'd also seen Danielle. But Caleb was conflict-averse, a go-along-to-get-along type. He passed by the family and offered a tight-lipped nod. He hoped they'd get tired. They didn't. Nearly 25 minutes passed. A booth opened. Danielle sighed, grabbing menus with the weight of martyrdom. "Follow me," she said curtly. She dropped the menus onto the table like unpaid bills. No water, no greetings, just silence. Danielle disappeared. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Robert raised a hand. "Nothing." Maya, barely holding back tears, whispered, "Can we just go?" Denise placed a hand on her daughter's. "We don't run." Danielle finally returned, tray in hand. "We're out of the ribeye," she announced without apology. "That wasn't our order," Denise said. Danielle blinked. "Right. Well, what did you want again?" Robert slowly pulled out his phone. He hit record. At exactly 4:36 p.m., the front door chimed. A tall man in a navy suit stepped inside. His presence turned heads faster than a dropped wine glass. Danielle smiled before she even saw him. "Good afternoon, welcome to..." Then her smile vanished. Governor Elijah Ward strode in like he owned the air. Eyes found him, admiration dripping from every corner. He didn't pause at the hostess stand. He made a beeline for the Whitakers, and then he embraced Robert. Danielle stood frozen. Her tray shook. Her jaw hung. The governor sat beside Maya. "What did I miss?" Robert chuckled. "A lesson." Elijah looked around. "I'd say it's time we taught it." Elijah called over the manager. Caleb stumbled over himself. "Sir, Governor, we had no idea. You knew enough to do nothing," Elijah said calmly. Then he turned to Danielle. "Did you enjoy belittling my family?" Danielle opened her mouth, then closed it. Robert handed over his phone. The video was clear. Words, expressions, dismissals. "We don't want revenge," Denise said. "We want accountability." Elijah nodded. "And the public deserves the truth." Caleb had no choice. Danielle was dismissed in front of the room. She didn't argue. She didn't apologize. She walked out, red-faced, rage swallowed by silence. The family stayed. The governor stayed. The staff changed. Their tone changed. Their posture changed. And so did the story of Willow Creek. By the next morning, the video had over 2 million views. News outlets ran headlines. Governor witnesses racism in hometown eatery. Belle Noire issued a public apology. Training sessions were mandated. But for many, the damage was already done. Elijah addressed the press. This isn't about one waitress. It's about a culture that rewards silence. If my family hadn't had a camera, they'd be dismissed again. Not anymore. Protests followed. So did conversations. Willow Creek changed. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably. The Whitakers were invited to speak at local schools. Maya became a voice for youth advocacy. In time, Belle Noire rebranded. But the story never faded. One family, one phone, and one governor peeled back the curtain. Because sometimes justice is served at a dinner table, and sometimes it walks through the door uninvited, but right on time. Weeks later, Danielle emerged on a podcast defending her actions. It wasn't about race, she said, her voice trembling. They were rude, but the internet wasn't buying it. Comments tore through her excuses. Despite Belle Noire's apology, a boycott began. Locals refused to eat there. Influencers called it out. Yelp reviews plummeted. Caleb Jensen, the manager, was forced to resign. Maya's college essay titled, "The Day My Dignity Was Served Cold," went viral. In it, she wrote, "I was invisible until my pain became a headline." Georgetown awarded her a scholarship. Enter Gloria Mendez, a fierce civil rights attorney. She contacted the Whitakers, urging them to file a civil complaint. What happened wasn't just immoral, it was unlawful, she declared. The Whitakers filed suit against Belle Noire for discriminatory practices. Depositions revealed past complaints ignored by management. Danielle had a record. The case drew media coverage. Live streams captured every word. Danielle's discomfort, Caleb's contradictions, Robert's unwavering calm, Denise's voice cracking. Investigations revealed a pattern of turning away minority customers. Records were missing. Tips were docked. Whispers from former employees painted a darker picture. Some townsfolk stood by Belle Noire, claiming it was all blown out of proportion. Others marched, demanding accountability. Willow Creek's fault lines widened. Belle Noire's new legal team offered a quiet settlement. The Whitakers refused. "We don't want hush money," said Robert. "We want change." On the stand, Danielle finally broke. "I didn't think they mattered," she whispered. Silence fell. The weight of her words settled like dust. The court ruled in favor of the Whitakers. Damages awarded. Reforms demanded. A monitor appointed. Belle Noire would never operate the same. The Whitakers launched a non-profit, Seat at the Table, dedicated to fighting discrimination in hospitality. Maya became its spokesperson. With time, Willow Creek healed. Town halls opened. Conversations deepened. The governor returned not to campaign but to listen. Maya received the Youth Advocacy Medal. Her parents were honored at the state capitol. The governor hugged them again. But this time, cameras weren't needed. The ripple spread. Other restaurants faced scrutiny. Policies changed. Stories surfaced. The movement reached beyond Willow Creek. Denise wrote a memoir, Reservation Not Required, recounting that day. Topped bestseller lists. It reminded the nation, justice doesn't whisper, it roars. Danielle disappeared from headlines. Last seen working at a roadside diner in another state. Her silence said more than her statements ever did. 1 year later, the Whitakers returned to Belle Noire under new management. They were welcomed with applause. They dined in peace. "This was never just about a meal," Robert told a reporter. "It was about being seen, heard, and treated as equal." In the end, the waitress's smirk became a symbol, not of hate, but of the moment hate was unmasked. And justice, once seated, never left the table. A civil rights organization erected billboards outside Willow Creek, Dignity isn't optional. Justice isn't silent. Tourists took notice. The town's image shifted. Former manager Caleb Jensen tried launching a blog about forgiveness and growth. But commenters asked one thing: why didn't you speak up when it mattered? Maya received a handwritten note from the president. Your courage reminds us who we are. Keep leading. It now hangs in her college dorm. Seat at the table began nationwide training for restaurant workers. Scenarios from Belle Noire were reenacted. The goal? Teach what silence costs. Danielle filed a defamation suit against the Whitakers. It was swiftly dismissed. The judge wrote, "Truth is not defamation. It's exposure." Months later, Denise received a letter. No return address. Just 6 words. "I was wrong. I am sorry." She never showed it to anyone but Maya. Belle Noire left table 7, the one the Whitakers had waited for, unreserved permanently. A plaque read, "This seat changed our town." Elijah Ward pushed a state bill. Mandatory anti-bias training for hospitality staff. Passed unanimously. "We legislate not just laws but values," he said. A journalist asked Maya, "Would you change anything about that day?" She paused. "No, because it changed everything else." Years later, Caleb left the industry. In an interview, he admitted, "I didn't act because I was afraid. Turns out, that was the worst decision of all." A local artist painted a mural. The Whitakers at their table, Governor Ward behind them. It became a landmark, a reminder of dignity and defiance. At Georgetown, Maya gave the commencement address. "I learned the difference between quiet and peace. Peace has no shame." The crowd rose to their feet. Rumors swirled about Danielle's whereabouts. Some said she changed her name. Others said she joined an online group blaming wokeness. No one knew for sure. Robert released a book, Patience in the Fire. It chronicled not just the Belle Noire incident, but his journey as a Black professional in small-town America. Denise introduced anti-bias training at her school district. Within a year, incident reports dropped. Students of color said they finally felt safe. Seat at the table won the National Social Justice Impact Award. Maya accepted it on behalf of her family. This is for every voice ever silenced. A documentary crew turned the story into a feature-length film, Table 7, premiered at Sundance. Reviews called it gutting, graceful, and necessary. Inspired by the Whitakers, other towns designated public seating areas as symbols of equality. Across the country, Table 7s appeared. On the anniversary, the Whitakers returned to Willow Creek. They walked through the town square where once they'd been ignored. Now, they were celebrated. What began with a waitress's smirk ended in a cultural shift. One moment, one family, one meal, and the world paid attention. Justice, once invited, took a seat, and it hasn't left since. At Maya's former school, students performed a play inspired by the events at Belle Noire. The final line? "Everyone deserves a seat." Parents wept. A mysterious donor funded scholarships for students of color in Willow Creek. Each was signed simply, "For Maya." Denise spoke at a state education panel. "It starts at lunch tables. Teach kids how to see each other. Really see." Danielle's apology letter was found half-burned in a trash bin. A local reporter salvaged it and published it anonymously. Public reaction was split. One night, Belle Noire served a fully booked crowd. Still, one table stayed empty. Couple asked why. The hostess said, "That seat belongs to justice." Belle Noire sent staff to a weekend retreat on race, service, and ethics. A new motto emerged: "We serve people, not profiles." Outside Belle Noire, a lone protester held a sign, "Don't forget what happened here." When asked, he replied, "Memory is the first step to prevention." Governor Ward pushed for policy change across service industries. Now, bias-related complaints could lead to business penalties. He called it the equity clause. At Sunday service, the local pastor said, "Faith without action is just comfort, and comfort is the enemy of courage." People nodded. A 5th grader wrote an essay titled "The Day Justice Sat Down." It won first prize statewide. The last line, Maya is my hero. Caleb donated to seat at the table under an alias. The receipt was traced. Redemption, maybe. Regret, certainly. Residents of Willow Creek debated renaming a street. The vote passed. Maya Whitaker Way now runs behind Belle Noire. A national restaurant chain adopted Belle Noire's training model. CEO, we realized this wasn't about one town. It was about all of us. Maya started a podcast, Table Talks. First guest, Governor Ward. They talked about fear, food, and fortitude. Investors approached Belle Noire to franchise under the new inclusive model. Denise declined. It should stay a symbol, not a brand. A time capsule was buried outside Belle Noire. Inside, a menu, Maya's letter, the plaque text, and a photo of the Whitakers at Table 7. Years later, Danielle appeared in a late-night docuseries. Her words, "I thought I was doing my job. I was protecting something, but not the right thing." At the end of his term, Governor Ward gave one last speech in Willow Creek. "This town showed us what justice can look like. Let's keep building it." The Belle Noire incident was added to a high school civics textbook. Students now study the case under the section Modern Moments of Change. One evening, a traveler came into Belle Noire. She asked for Table 7. The host replied, "That seat's always ready, for those who demand dignity." A regional theater company staged a reenactment of the Belle Noire incident. Audience members were left in stunned silence. Many cried. A class-action lawsuit emerged from former Belle Noire employees who had witnessed years of subtle discrimination. The case shook the industry. A sociology professor designed an entire college course titled Justice at the Table, with the Whitaker case as its centerpiece. Other waitstaff came forward, anonymously, describing similar incidents in different towns. The pattern was undeniable, and now finally documented. High schoolers in Willow Creek organized a silent walk past Belle Noire, each holding signs with the word "seen." The town fell quiet as they passed. A journalist obtained pages from Danielle's old diary. In them, guilt, confusion, and a line circled in red, "I thought they'd leave." Visitors began leaving handwritten notes at the plaque near Table 7. Soon, Belle Noire installed a wall for them. They called it the Apology Wall. Denise published a memoir titled Mother, Interrupted. It detailed the agony, the injustice, and the strange gift of being seen. Finally, a restaurant in Austin refused service to a black family. The manager cited high tension. The video went viral. But this time, people knew what to do. Maya mailed Danielle a letter. In it, she wrote, "I forgive you, not for you but for me. I won't carry your shame anymore." She never got a reply. The state installed a historic marker outside Belle Noire. It read, "A moment of injustice that changed a town and rippled across a nation." A politician used the Belle Noire story in a campaign ad. It backfired. The Whitakers issued a statement, "We are not a slogan." One night, vandals torched the Table 7 plaque. By morning, a crowd had already replaced it with flowers, photos, and handwritten signs. Robert addressed Congress during a forum on racial equity. "My family sat in silence once. We won't do it again." He received a standing ovation. An activist created an interactive map tracking restaurant bias cases. Belle Noire was marked, then remarked with a tag, Site of Redemption. Danielle was spotted at a silent retreat in Oregon. A reporter tried to interview her. She declined. Her only words, "I still hear it." Maya earned a Rhodes Scholarship. Her research, Institutional Microaggressions in Modern Hospitality. Former Belle Noire employees held a reunion. They invited the Whitakers. Robert declined. Denise and Maya came and hugged every former coworker. A traveling exhibit titled Justice at the Table opened in Chicago. Photos, audio recordings, and witness interviews played on loop. A new waitress at Belle Noire asked, "Why is that table empty?" The manager smiled. "Because that story still echoes. We honor it every day." A local journalist received an envelope. Inside, a photo of Danielle speaking to someone in a black SUV minutes after the incident. No one recognized the man. The journalist tracked down unreleased footage from a nearby ATM camera. The SUV had government plates. Digging deeper, it was revealed that Danielle's brother-in-law worked for a state senator who had passed legislation restricting diversity training. When pressed about the SUV, Governor Langston paused. "Some stories deserve silence," he said. It only raised more questions. A leaked call log showed that Danielle received 2 calls from an unlisted government liaison the night before the incident. Word spread. Protesters returned to Belle Noire, not in anger, but in silence. They wore masks with Danielle's diary quote, "I thought they'd leave." The same SUV was spotted outside the governor's mansion. This time, it was photographed clearly. The plate number went viral. A former aide to the governor came forward. She claimed the governor orchestrated a quiet social test at Belle Noire. Danielle was a pawn. Leaked documents revealed a state-backed program that observed race relations in small-town environments. Willow Creek was a testing ground. The state legislature opened an ethics investigation. Langston was subpoenaed and forced to testify under oath. Danielle was compelled to testify. She broke down. "I was told it was a simulation, that no one would get hurt. I didn't know they were real. Text messages confirmed it." Danielle had been coached. "Push them out gently," one message said. "Let's measure reaction time." Outside court, Maya ran into Danielle. "You didn't break me," she said. "You revealed everything broken around you." State legislators called an emergency session. The governor's program was terminated. Oversight committees were formed. Governor Langston resigned in disgrace. "I wanted data," he admitted, "but I forgot they were people." Danielle left Willow Creek. Her last known address was a halfway house near Phoenix. No one's heard from her since. Major news outlets picked up the story. Other towns came forward. The program had been wider than anyone thought. Congress launched a federal investigation into experimental social studies without informed consent. It was dubbed the Whitaker Commission. Families affected by the covert program received settlements. The Whitakers donated theirs to fund scholarships in hospitality ethics. Belle Noire encased Table 7 in glass. Above it hangs a plaque, "Never again shall silence serve the powerful." Years later, schoolchildren tour the site. Teachers tell them, "This is where silence was broken, and justice began to speak." Stay tuned for more chilling cases on Cold Case Chronicles, where the truth is always darker than fiction. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case Chronicles. We dive deeper into the most chilling, unsolved mysteries, and together, we uncover what was left behind. Like, share, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. The truth never rests.